They say cheaters never prosper, and whilst video games tend to prove that that isn't the case, well, sometimes it is when they ruin the game's core design needs. At times, shortcuts can render titles entirely unplayable. In other cases, they make it far too easy to win, thereby erasing all of the challenge and skill that makes the journey worthwhile in the first place. I'm Sai for WhatCulture.com, and here are 10 cheat codes that broke your game. Number 10, Evil Cars, Saints Row 2. Few modern video game series are sillier than Saints Row, and although 2011's Saints Row the Third is often seen as the entry that truly kicked the goofiness into high gear, 2008's Saints Row 2 did plenty to advance the absurdity. Whilst its increase in humorous activities, characters, dialogue and plot are important pieces of the puzzle, Saints Row 2's greatest trolling comes from a covert tactic that immediately ruins any chance of you having a manageable time in the world. Obviously, we're talking about typing the number 16 into your in-game cell phone to enable the hilariously titled Evil Cars. Shortly after activating it, you'll be running for your life and trying to avoid the myriad of vehicles that suddenly want nothing more than to run you down. Steering clear of them isn't as simple as staying off the streets either, as these multi-wheeled foes will slam into you from any direction at any time. Any save file containing active cheats will have an orange star next to it, so be sure to have a clean save to use when you're done with this. Otherwise, your progress will be forever altered by an onslaught of automobiles that want to reenact Stephen King's Maximum Overdrive. Number 9, Money X, The Sims 4. One of the main goals of The Sims is to amass as much property, material goods and other costly indulgences as possible, with the envisioned way of bulking up your bank account being working jobs, selling collectibles, marrying a rich partner, and or engaging in potentially profitable hobbies such as gardening, fishing and painting. That can be quite a time-consuming and complex process, which is where the Money X cheat comes in. Unlike Rosebud, Kaching and Motherload, which instantly deposit 1,000, 10,000 and 50,000 simoleons respectively into your funds, the Money X cheat allows you to gift yourself any amount you desire. Need a cool million to spruce up your Mojo Dojo Casa house? Well, no problem, just pull up the cheat input box on your console or computer of choice, type your desired payday and bam, you're now a millionaire. Now granted, you are able to decrease your funds in case you want to have a more realistic experience, but the Money X cheat intrinsically prevents you from playing the game as originally intended. If you give into it even one time, and that's the truest thing here, just once. There are two ways to play The Sims, completely clean or with cheats. There's no middle ground. Nobody ever cheated in The Sims for one purchase, just like that particular sofa, please. Once you've opened up Pandora's box, there's no closing the fact that you can do it again and again and again and again. Money, 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 money. Number 8, Super Sabers, Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Star Wars video games have existed for nearly as long as Star Wars films, so there were bound to be some bizarre modifications thrown in along the way. Although Star Wars Demolition's ability to turn on high gravity and Star Wars Episode 1 The Phantom Menace's ability to view the game as wireframes are wonderfully wacky, they can't hold a lightsaber to Star Wars Episode 3 Revenge of the Sith's penchant for gigantic laser swords. Released for the PlayStation 2 and Xbox as well as some handheld systems in 2005, Revenge of the Sith was known for being extremely difficult by default. That said, entering Super Sabers into the code section of the settings menu made it even tougher because it gave enemies and not the player massive lightsabers. At the risk of sounding dirty, the increases in length and girth made these weapons hilariously oversized yet overwhelmingly hazardous. See, there is such a thing as too big, not like that. As such, it became damn near impossible to overcome your foes and progress through the story. Adding insult to galactic injury, Super Sabers can't be removed if the player saves with it on, so you have to start a whole new save file to have a functional adventure. Number 7, Pokemon Manipulation, Pokemon Yellow. So look, I'm gonna take this wonderful script and just set it aside for a moment to tell a personal story that I need to get out of me about Pokemon Yellow. Are there any cheats in Pokemon? Not typically, especially if you're not counting glitches like Missingno that can duplicate your items. That, however, means that those with access to a Game Shark or an action replay could work their magic by messing with the code. There's the obviously helpful stuff like giving yourself loads of items or money or all the gym badges, and then for Pokemon Yellow there was a very specific code that was quite popular indeed. You see, the game has a hidden surfing Pikachu minigame in it that can only be accessed by those who had a Pikachu who had learned the move Surf, which it normally can't be taught, and so players would have to get this elusive critter via special events. Of course, Game Shark players made a loophole for this by rewriting code that changes the first Pokemon in your party into a Pikachu with Surf. Cue my childhood friend, his Game Shark, and my very proud team that I work hard to put together that included Blastoise, Charizard, Venusaur, Mewtwo and so on, all turning into Pikachus with Surf. Press save, and they're locked as that Pokemon forever. In theory, you could dig into the code and change any Pokemon into any other if you knew what to tweak. And as mad as I might have been at the time, I could never erase that save data for the pure absurdity of my once beloved Blastoise, now Raichu, that had the moveset Surf, Skull Bash, Hydro Pump, and Surf again. Good times. Number 6, Rotating Heads, Time Splitters 2. Widely considered the spiritual successors to N64 gems GoldenEye 007 and Perfect Dark, Free Radical Design's Time Splitters trilogy has been beloved for over 20 years now. Undoubtedly, 2002's Time Splitters 2 is the most popular one due to its almost flawless balance of humour, personality, variety, storytelling, and action. Of course, it also came packed with ways to transform how the game plays and looks. Whilst most are innocuously silly, such as facilitating big or small heads, infinite ammo, paintball buckets, and slow-mo death, the rotating head cheat is another story. And not just because it makes you feel as though you're constantly facing off with a well-equipped version of Reagan from The Exorcist. So yes, it forces opponents' skulls to spin incessantly and with immense speed. What's the problem? Well, their heads swivel so quickly that they're able to always see you coming, thereby taking away any chance you have to sneak around them by bypassing their field of vision. In turn, advancing through the level from that point forward is nigh on unfeasible. There's creating an extra level of challenge for a game, and then there's this cheat which makes it truly impossible. Honestly, it's like trying to stick your finger through a fan when it's going at full force and not getting hit. You just can't do it. Stop trying. Number 5, Alien Abduction, FIFA 2000. This must be among the strangest entries on this list, which is really saying something since it involves interrupting the relatively calm and leisurely sport of soccer with the ridiculous of extraterrestrial kidnapping. Basically, the 8th entry in Electronic Arts' long-running but technically at this point discontinued FIFA franchise allows gamers to play an entire match with random alien abductions by entering Dizzy in the cheat menu beforehand. Far from being a minor annoyance or temporary inconvenience, the eerily precise hovering beam of light permanently removes each targeted teammate from the remainder of the match. As funny as it is the first few times, the momentarily disruptive nature of the gimmick soon reveals itself. Let's say you've sprinted across the entire field in preparation to score a goal, only to get lifted off into outer space just as you line up your perfect shot. Or let's say you've outlined a brilliant game-winning play that involves kicking the ball from one player to another, I don't know how this sport works, only to see them carried away just as you're about to make the pass. Clearly, these otherworldly creatures are dead set on ruining the strategy, fluidity, and general playability of FIFA 2000, as well as the ambiance. Gone is the kick around with your mates, now FIFA 2000 is a terrifying apocalypse. These players had families. Number 4, Infinite Health, Donkey Kong 64. Truth be told, it's been reported that using any Game Shark code with Donkey Kong 64 will result in absolute destruction. However, the Infinite Health mod is the only one that continuously gets mentioned by other users, journalists and the like, so we're going to focus solely on that. Because Donkey Kong 64 is a long game, all about amassing collectibles, conquering stages and exploring as much terrain as possible. So you might consider being naughty and connecting your Donkey Kong 64 cartridge to a Game Shark and implementing Infinite Health for an easier time of things. But if you do, you're in for complete and indefinite chaos. Why? Because afterwards the game has a nasty habit of breaking if it's restarted without the cheat activated. From looping animations and fused sprites to characters flying all over the place, vibrating uncontrollably, dying in a single hit, and being unable to pick up items, it absolutely removes any chance you have of collecting the game's near 4,000 collectibles. The worst part of it all is that Donkey Kong 64 frequently auto-saves, so those glitches are forever tied to your experience. In fact, many victims have alleged that deleting the cursed save file does nothing since the Game Shark ruins the cartridge for good. Game Shark, not even once. Number 3, Oh Canada, Age of Mythology. Normally, bears are inherently formidable. That's true no matter who you are, where you're from, or in this case of 2002's Age of Mythology, if you're a real person or a mass of digital people engaging in conflict across multiple legendary backdrops and circumstances. But then the age-old question, what if bears attacked in droves, leapt great distances in seconds, used overpowered weapons, and were essentially invincible? Obviously, we're referring to the Oh Canada trick that spawned an entire unit of bloodthirsty bears proudly wearing the Canadian flag as capes. While their choice of attire isn't necessarily intimidating, their other capabilities are game-shattering in terms of eradicating every bit of engaging and compulsory difficulty, critical thinking, planning, and triumph. Summoned bears come equipped with intimidatingly dangerous lasers, punches, and monkey sidekicks, permitting them to vanquish pretty much any enemy in a matter of seconds. In addition, they regain health at an alarming rate and are protected by thick armor, so they're functionally immortal. If that weren't enough, they can traverse large areas with rapid speed. By making it far too easy and quick to win, these anarchic bears demolish Age of Mythology's fundamental systems and objectives. Number 2, no jumping, Super Mario Bros. 3. Compared to other video game genres, platformers, in particular early 2D platformers, aren't known for having a lot of complicated mechanics. Aside from needing the protagonist to move left and right, jump and sometimes crouch, maybe use power-ups and weapons if they're available, there's not much else that goes into controlling a character. That said, each of these abilities is crucial to successfully playing each adventure. Just look at how the industry's favourite Italian plumber / Mushroom Kingdom saviour Mario needs to jump in order to access hidden goodies, cross ledges, stomp Koopalings, and basically everything. So what happens to Jumpman when he can't jump? Well, 1988's groundbreaking Super Mario Bros. 3 lets players find out with the help of a game genie. Simply input one of the, for some reason, multiple cheats that disable jumping, and Mario will be helplessly glued to the ground. Jumping is not only essential to Mario reaching the end of each stage, he needs to do it within the first few moments of World 1-1 to avoid bumping into a Goomba, so it's safe to say that this is one of the simplest yet most detrimental cheats on this list. It begs the question, who even thought this was a worthwhile addition to a cheat list in the first place? You can't even get past the first hurdle. And number 1, Riots Mode, the Grand Theft Auto series. It's no secret that the Saints Row series was inspired by Grand Theft Auto, to put it nicely, not only in terms of overarching game design and attitude, but also in terms of its cheats. Whereas the former franchise implemented evil cars in the mid to late 2000s, Rockstar Games' primary cash cow was permitting pedestrians to wreak havoc on players since at least 1999's Grand Theft Auto 2. How, I hear you ask? Well, through Riot Mode, which transforms every passerby into a bloodthirsty and rage-filled maniac whose sole purpose is to beat the crap out of you and each other. They don't just punch and kick you either, as they're more than happy to blow things up and start gunfights as well. America! As fun as it may sound, Riot Mode makes everything you do, from completing the game's final goal all the way down to just walking down the street, an unmanageable chore. Worst of all, it can't be deactivated if you save with it turned on. And what's very funny about this fact is that whilst it was missing from GTA 4, it's sort of in GTA 5. That is to say, it feels like an early version of GTA Online, where you boot up the online game and they get run down by hyperactive 12-year-olds high on too much Prime. Still, the chaos in all of us can't deny that we'd kind of love to see it make a return in GTA 6's campaign. Rampages in Grand Theft Auto are part of the franchise's DNA, but maybe it's time that the riot made a return.